Fearless Leader Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Fearless Leader Podcast. Today I have Dr. Lamy, Dr. Patrick Lamy from Bloomfield College, who serves as the Vice President of Student Affairs and Community Relations. Doc, it was a heavy title on that one, so I kind of had to dip back to kind of make sure I said it the right way. I just, I don't want to play a game, but I want to make sure I respect the title. And so I have a quick history with Dr. Lamy, a very professional gentleman, very respectful, always positive. Made sure I went to Bloomfield on a couple of tours, called him. He invited me in. Was able to see a lot of the positive things happening at Bloomfield College. Didn't know that every year we were sending students were transferring it straight into Bloomfield College. I didn't know the numbers. I was on campus, Doc, I think, when I remember, and students were like, hey, Mr. Belton, hey, Mr. Belton. I didn't know that many of our students were transferring directly to you. And then you walked me through some of the programs. So I definitely want you to highlight some of those things. But before we even get that far out, I want you to just introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Patrick Lamy, Vice President for Student Affairs, Community Relations. I'm saying that again. It is a handful. I've been at Bloomfield College now for 28 years, having served at two other institutions in varying capacities prior. And my time here has been a blessing because I've had the opportunity to educate mostly Black and brown kids, and that's been my passion. Which is why I stayed as long as I have, because I see that our institution, with the wealth of resources that we provide for our students, is something special and very different. And when we have such a commitment to first generation and students who have been marginally removed from higher ed, it's important that they see people like me on the campus to be there as a mentor, supporter, and do whatever we can. I mean, we have one goal at Bloomfield College is that any student we enroll, we believe has the opportunity for success, and we have to commit ourselves to that task.
Right. Doc, when I think it was one of the earlier times when I stopped through, and we were talking about students possibly attending Bloomfield College, was it students able to attend Bloomfield College with or without an SAT exam or an SAT score?
Well, at that time when we first started, I think we had just moved to SAT optional. I think that was probably in 2000, had to be 2017 maybe.
Okay.
It was about 3 years ago. And, for us, we believe that students come with other skills and potential that the SAT and ACT cannot measure.
Right.
And so we factor in what the student has done in high school, what involvement they've had in community service, leadership, their actual GPA, and what courses they've taken. That weighs heavier for us, far more than ACT or SAT score.
Well, I'm glad you said
we removed it.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, Doc, because I think sometimes students are under the impression that because the SAT or the ACT is removed, it's like, hey, it's almost like a clear shot. And they're not really paying attention to the idea that now the weight is on the GPA and those other scores. So I appreciate that you putting that in so that folks are not thinking like, oh, that's just the place I could, throw the application in and then I'm a shoe in.
No, every application is going to be evaluated. I mean, we believe that we want students to have a level of college preparation. And so courses that students have taken and how they perform in those courses is the weighted part of this process, and their essay and recommendations from people on your team, for example, would carry a lot more weight.
Doc, how many students actually live on campus? Because Bloomfield College is nestled in the downtown area of Bloomfield. I mean, you could miss it if you just stayed on the main avenue. I know you guys are doing a lot of growing and developing, but how many students actually stay on campus?
We have about a third of our students stay on campus. We have 679 beds.
Okay.
Right now, we're averaging between 1,600 and 1,800 students on a given semester. So, over a third of our students live on campus. And why that's important, and let me kind of expand on that a bit. Right now, we're talking about the importance of first-year students in particular. You know, if I had it my way, Mr. Belton, I would kind of require first-year students to stay on campus. Because I think that experience is kind of an essential foundation for students to understand the collection of the opportunities that exist on the college campus that sometimes a commuter student cannot. So we're in discussion right now. How do we make that affordable so that it's not a burden on the parents and the student? Because if we make that mandatory, we want you here. But we do know that students who live on campus stay here longer, graduate at a higher rate. So if I can give everybody that piece of foundation, the end result is a lot better.
Let me ask you, well, on that note then, how many of your freshmen actually transition to their sophomore year? How many are staying around?
Well, typically our first year retention rate is around 65%.
Okay.
So, you know, we lose a very large number of students during the first year. And, you know, that's something that we're working on. We just launched a new strategic plan with a number of new initiatives to combat that specific issue. And ideally, we would like over 75 to 80% of our students being here starting their second year. But the number one issue that students struggle with on our campus is really the academic adjustment. You know, that's really the issue. And affordability is still an issue, but we put so much resources we invest so much resources for the students we serve that we're realizing that even the students who are withdrawing or stopping out have zero expected family contributions in a lot of cases, which means affordability was not really a factor. It's really the adjustment and the motivation. And also, you know, what we're discovering right now is, you know, I do a lot of work on a retention task force on our campus. I'm the chair of that task force. So I do a lot of evaluation of the data annually to kind of see why students are leaving. And most of them are not leaving to transfer. A lot of them leave because, one, they have, and you know this as well as I do based on the students you serve, a lot of our students go into college with job responsibilities to help the families. I mean, they're not your traditional student. And people think all students are the same, but, you know, I'm a first generation student, and I'll tell you, I had a job since I was 13. And, you know, so that doesn't go away. And so, you know, our kids have responsibilities at home. They're trying to hold on to job, trying to handle a curriculum that they need a lot of help with. So you got to steer them in that direction constantly to kind of take advantage of that. And they find out that they have to do a lot more preparation than some other students, you know.
Right. Well, you know, I remember having a conversation with you. We even spoke about it just prior to this conversation. And one of the programs that you guys had that I haven't heard at any other school. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't been to every school, Dr. Lamy, but I know I've spoken to representatives from other institutions, and I haven't heard about the first year parent engagement program. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. In 2013, you know, we began to expand our parent orientation from 2 hours to about 4 hours. This is the orientation that we had in August. And from speaking to parents during those times, we realized that a number of parents are going through the experience with their students for the first time. So, you know, and I use myself as an example. You know, my mother had no idea what college was about for me. You know, she didn't know that going to orientation was an important thing that parents do. She didn't go. You know, so, you know, parents. That's real. And so understanding the psychology behind parents not having attended college themselves, not understanding the experience, the students going through it for the first time without the support of parents who have gone through that experience. We acknowledged that we needed to create a platform to help parents because we had to make them part of the village. Our students need a village of support. And so if I'm tugging at our students to, you know, you need to cut your hours from 30 on your job to work 20 so you can focus more on your academics, and the parent is saying, no, you need to work full-time because we need you to help at home. So, you know, we speak in two separate languages. And then there's also the issue of the importance of the students we serve to complete FAFSA and all the administrative stuff that parents have to do that they don't understand. You know, they're what is this application? Why do they need my taxes? You know, why do they need my income? Like,
I get that now.
A lot of us, culturally, we protect those things. You know?
Yes, sir.
And for first generation parents, that's even it's a deeper issue. So we made an investment to create a first year parent engagement program, which is a year-long program for first-year parents to help them through the entire process.
Okay.
What's going to happen with your son at midterms? What they're going to experience over the first semester? When they're going to have stress?
Right.
When final exams are? We bring them on campus to speak with the counseling center to kind of understand all the resources. There's a village of people who are centered around your student, and are there to help. What tutoring services are, so that when they're having a conversation with their student, they could say, hey, you said you were struggling with this class. Have you gone to the tutoring center? I heard there's tutoring free for every class available on campus. They're part of the team.
Right.
So, and we find that parents who are involved in that program, their students succeed at a much higher rate during the first year than parents who are not involved. It's intuitive and expected.
Doc, when you talked about those opportunities that are offered on campus, first year students, are students given opportunities to do like a work study? Is that further down the line?
No. We try to encourage first year students to work on campus first and foremost. I mean, that's like, we prioritize that. As long as they're eligible for work study there, we try to. In fact, most of my staff are required to hire a first year student. That's just bottom line.
Okay. So do you guys have like a set, you guys really try to engage the first year student?
I'll go through some of the things that are available for first year students from the very beginning. Post orientation, we have students who live on campus. I'll start with them. They have a residential coach. So every first year student is assigned to a professional who lives in the building with the first year student that have to meet with once a month. That's point one. Commuter students have to meet with their first year academic advisors monthly as well to develop an action plan. So those are the resources, and that's for every first year student. Then you have the first year seminar. Here you have that. That's how to orient yourself to college.
Right.
You have that. And so and you have first year orientation, which really spills over to, these are all the resources you have available to you, including tutoring, and encouraging every student to take advantage of all the opportunities on campus. So we know the importance of the first year, and more than ever now with COVID, it's extremely important for us to take the right steps, because new challenges are on the table. With students being remotely. So, how do you engage tutoring services remotely? So all of our services are still available to every student right now. Nothing stopped during COVID.
Oh, excellent, Doc. So Doc, but even so now I know, like when you guys are back in brick and mortar, that those tutoring services I know are available, but I come in first or second year student, I'm struggling. My advisor picks that up. Like, how do you guys ensure that I'm in tutoring?
Well, there's two things that happen. We have a program called Starfish, so there's a bunch of people who are involved in this one program.
Okay.
It's one of those customer management relations programs, but it's focused on students. It's a student-centered program. So we send the faculty out a Starfish alert for them to respond to a group of people who handle Starfish, who deal with tutoring, counseling, all of the resources.
Right.
Prior to midterm, how's the student doing? Are they going to class? Blah, blah, blah. And then from that outreach, we start with the professors completing that small task. Jason Belton has not been in class for 2 weeks. He missed the first exam.
Right.
So that goes into a central area where all the people who need to know about Jason Belton kind of flag that, reach out to Jason Belton, he must go to tutor. When Jason Belton goes to tutor, register, a flag come back that happened.
Okay.
That action occurred.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I'm going to let you know outright, because, you're my guy, that I will be lifting the Starfish verbiage from you, and we'll be incorporating that now, because I like that whole Starfish plan. I like that whole piece right there, Doc. That's all right there. Doc, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Diversity on the campus. What does that look like out in Bloomfield?
Well, I mean, we're a very diverse campus, although most of our students are Black and brown.
Okay.
And I say diversity comes in various forms. It's defined beyond just the issue of race and ethnicity. And very diverse campus where we're pretty much 50% students of African descent, about 30% students of Latin American descent. But that bridges all the diaspora of Black from around the world.
Right.
Latin from around the world.
Right.
But I will tell you what's really important for us when we talk about the issue of diversity. our new president, who's just completing her second year, just launched a task force on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
And I'm one of the co-chairs of that task force, along with one of my faculty colleagues. And the idea there is because we're a high minority population does not mean that we're diverse,
Right.
and that we understand diversity,
Right,
that we
exactly.
understand equity, we understand inclusion, because those definitions expand beyond
Yes.
just color.
Right.
So on our campus, the conversation right now is how do we infuse diversity, equity, and inclusion into the curriculum so that our curriculum reflects our community and the global community as well. How do we introduce programs for students to keep those conversations going? How do we bring the social contemporary issues in the media into the classroom, into conversations outside of the classroom?
Right.
We had a Black Lives Matter rally on our campus back in, I think, September. And we put a Black Lives Matter poster, wrapped one of our buildings with it, because you know what? That's the kind of campus we are.
Right.
And what does that mean to the student who's not Black, who's a Caucasian student? These are the conversations that we have in a place like ours, understanding that we have a mission that's committed and grounded in the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right, right. Doc, what are you doing? What is the school doing to sort of to go and get those Black and brown students from those high schools? Like what's is it like a concerted effort? Like is there a plan to go pull these kids in? So how are you introducing the Bloomfield College to those schools and bringing those kids back in?
Well, our goal is the first thing is we have to embrace who we are. We're a minority serving institution. We're a small institution. We're the only predominantly Black 4-year and institution in New Jersey, and both HSI and PBI designation. Nobody else looks like us. And we embrace that. I mean, that's the bottom line. So the issue is we're welcome. Our goal is to recruit any and all students from any high school or community college or 2-year institution. However, we just identify ourselves and take pride in being a minority serving 4-year institution. We don't intentionally say we're going to have this percentage of African American students this year.
Right.
That's not our approach. Our approach is embracing who we are, and those who find value in our mission and our vision and our core values as an institution will find us attractive as we find them attractive as well to our community. So from our standpoint right now, we're targeting Essex County very highly. That's where most of our students are from. We're targeting Passaic County. We're targeting Uban County, Hudson County. I mean, the radius that's immediately surrounding us in Bergen. And those counties come with different groups of people. And in the mix of those counties that we highly focused on, we hope to have a pool of students that's as diverse as the pool of students that's currently enrolled here.
Got you. Doc, what majors are popular out in Bloomfield?
I'm sorry?
What majors do you have that are popular out that way?
Well, one of our flagship programs is our Creative Arts Technology program and our nursing program. Both of those programs are in the top rankings in the state of New Jersey, with creative arts being #1 and nursing being #2 in the state.
Okay.
And so when you look at a college like ours and a small institution, we're producing more Black and brown nurses than just about anybody else. In the time that we're in right now, we're making that difference on the ground. On the ground. And not only that, our nurses are hired at almost 100% rate before they even walk off the stage. I mean, that's the kind of program we have. We also have a very special programs called Creative Arts Technology that we started in the 90s. And when no one was really thinking about the issue of animation and how it's going to play into the gaming industry, graphic design, multimedia, 3D animation, 2D animation, music production, video production. We started in that space. We've been in that space over 20 years. So it's not surprising that we're the #1 program in New Jersey right now, even though there's several others that came up behind us.
Right.
And what that program produces are the people who are building websites, building graphics for commercials. Animation is critically important in messaging. Like people don't understand how these things translate into real life, high-tech world that we're living in right now. We're graduating students who are producers in the in the TV industry,
Mhm.
you know, because they come out with that skill.
Right.
We're graduating students who are music engineers in
Yep.
studios. So
Mhm.
those are spaces that people were not thinking about, that you need to be credentialed.
Right.
But now, you know, for you to master a piece of music from ground 1 to 10, it's a training.
Yes.
You have to be
Yeah.
trained to do that.
Right.
So, but those are our 2 flagship programs. But we offer a host of other programs, including a bachelor's in criminal justice,
Mhm.
including sociology, psychology, the natural sciences, biology, chemistry, the humanities as
Mhm.
well. We have an education program that now has a graduate level tier. And
Okay.
at some point, I want to talk with you about creating a special scholarship program for your teachers who want to
Okay.
get a master's degree at Bloomfield College, because I think that's a natural segue for those who are working on that plan and want to get that next credential.
Excellent. Hey, Doc, expound a little bit more on the gaming program. I remember coming there one time. I'm not sure I was on a, you know, you allowed me to just walk through the building, the university a few times, but there was a time when I walked through and I saw a sign. I believe it was like in the gaming building, and they had like these, I think like these people who produced the games, or they manufactured or they created, and it was like just like a weekend long program. Like I had never seen that before. I realized, you know, we got, you know, COVID jumped into the mix, but walk me through that. Explain that to the listeners about that program.
Yeah, there's a program. It's a conference that's held here. I think it's every year in the spring, typically, which is probably when you're on campus. And it's our gaming program really has professionals who are involved from all over the industry. People
Hmm.
who are designing. At one point, the person who designed Grand Theft Auto was part of the team of people that was involved on our campus. But you know, so it runs the gamut of simple games.
Hmm.
You know, where there's games that are educational.
Right.
To games that are really moving to the PlayStation and Nintendo world. So
Right.
Students who are in our programs kind of fall into that industry that's kind of people
Hmm.
forget about it. Like when your kid won a video game, someone conceptualized that,
Right.
built the program, they wrote the code for it. So those kids come out with coding capacity. So they're really more or less computer engineers as
Hmm.
well
Hmm.
as game designers. So it's a
Hmm.
blend of both. So what you witness on that weekend is really the industry coming together to talk about
Right.
the future of gaming
Right.
and,
Right.
and where our students will fit in that space. And but not only that, when you think about gaming in the context of simulations, that's the bigger thing now. As
Right.
we move to less in-person interaction, a simulation is designed by somebody who's a game designer,
Right. Exactly.
or 3D animation person,
Right.
and so all those interactive media start at that platform. So it's really goes across multiple industries.
Doc, how do you stay? Because you guys aren't like a large, like a large institution. How do you stay competitive?
Well, we stay competitive because a lot of our professors, even those who are full-time and not full-time, are people who are active in the field. So we
Right.
intentionally hire people who are what we call practitioners.
Right.
So when you hire an adjunct for your gaming program, you hire somebody who's working full-time in that space.
Hmm.
So remaining competitive is really about who you have in the leadership of those programs, whether it's nursing, gaming, or any other major.
Correct.
And the people they're hiring.
Hmm.
You know, so I'm invited often to teach courses in student affairs at other institutions because I do that every day.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I'm the best person to go do that if
Right.
you want to be invited an external
Right.
person, because the experience I'm having yesterday is relevant to the classroom today. You know,
Right. Right.
So I think it's really about being competitive in who you're bringing into the fold to teach our students to remain competitive.
How now? I know you said that you would bring in families, so that you could work directly with the fam, so that the school could work directly with families as far as application, the process, the FAFSA, things like that. How do you how do you, when it comes to the financial aid packaging, right?
Mhm.
And we spoke earlier, and you were like, well, you know, we make sure that we where it doesn't become like too hard for the parent to pay for school, for them to understand. What's the affordability with Bloomfield College though? Like when parents are thinking about making that decision, like how is that, what do you guys go through as far as the affordability of the school?
I mean, for the students we serve, which are, I'll start with my first response to that is more than 95% of our students receive some form of financial aid from us. Let's start with that. So but the money's on the table from us before we even start with loans or anything like that.
Right.
But for the population of students we serve, if parents took the time to kind of let us help them understand the process,
right? Because
what typically happens is, when you present a person who's making average family income for a Bloomfield College student is $33,000. Okay, that's the median income. So I'm presenting a $31,000 tuition to a family who's making $33,000.
Right.
So
yeah, that looks scary. That looks a little scary, Doc.
Come on, scary. The shock factor alone is kind of like how am I going to pay for this?
Exactly.
So if I don't make the investment in the parent to say, hey, listen, if you're based on your income, your son or daughter is going to qualify for a tag if you keep them in the state of New Jersey. Because a lot of people think going outside of the state is the answer. And it's absolutely not the answer. For a parent from a high need, from students from a high need, it's not the answer. Because there's so many unexpected expenses from going out of state, including sometimes institutions charge out-of-state tuition.
Fees, exactly.
Fee on top of the regular fee. And parents don't understand that math and how that adds up. So first thing is keep them in state. A school like Bloomfield, a student in this particular financial category is going to get about $18,000 to $19,000 from the state of New Jersey. So your $31,000 expense is now $19,000. Exactly. Cut down there. Between Pell and TAG. Now the college is going to tell you, we're going to give you almost a matching scholarship for the balance, and you may owe, if you have the means to pay it, $3,000 in EFC for the year. So you're 31 on a payment plan that can go as well as long as 10 months a year. So $31,000 fear factor become a $3,000 challenge for your family that we will try to work you through if you can't afford it. So if you don't have that conversation, people won't understand it, because if I'm looking at a $31,000 bill and I'm making $2,000 more a year, that math just sends a message of impossible. Unless you take the time. So my point earlier is, we as an institution and you in our partnership, we have to work together to kind of talk parents through the process. When your kid is asking for information, it's because the federal government needs it. The state of New Jersey needs it. It's not a pry into your privacy.
Right.
And if you don't give your kid that information, they're losing $19,000 in free money. That's what it means.
I do want to take a second just to say thank you, because I remember having a conversation with you, and we were trying to figure out ways in which we could reduce the amount of money students would have to pay upon arrival at Bloomfield College. And you were quick to be like, listen, we need to put this on paper. And I remember, the past administration in Orange sat down with you and made that happen. And so definitely kudos to you and your team, Doc, because it was really, the document was written up. It went to you, came back, we confirmed, and it was a go. And so to my listeners, it was really about Bloomfield College saying, okay, listen, we realize that these many students leave Orange High School and come to Bloomfield College. And so what we would like to see is, and so the conversation became around the finances. And you guys were like, listen, let's look at GPAs. Let's look at all of the things that we're going to say that's going to count to get this kid on campus. And if certain kids and if students are in good standing, and then you guys went a little further, because it just wasn't one tier. I think it was like 3 tiers, 3 different levels that a kid could get into Bloomfield College and at a reduced rate. So, folks, that was, that's almost unheard of to me. So I wanted to, make sure that, I commended Bloomfield College and you and your team, when you guys came to the table on that, Doc. That was excellent.
Well, I thought that was a great partnership, which we still have. And what's different about that partnership, though, that I must expand on is that partnership was for a 4-year commitment. See, other schools don't do that. See, people want to give your students a lot of money during the first year to get them in the door.
Get them in the door. And you said that then. Yep.
Exactly. But our agreement was for a full 4 years. So that student was getting a total of 30,000. It was a full package student. That student went free. I mean, it was a full 4-year commitment.
Yes.
It was and so, but but we realized that a lot of our students who leave the state or select institutions, if you don't have the kind of partnership, if higher education and K-12 don't start to collaborate the way they were collaborating, we'll go down the path of students not going to college at all because they don't understand how it can happen.
Right.
So I think you in a Orange Board of Ed for kind of being one of the first ones to step to the table to say, hey, let's engage in this partnership.
Right. Doc, also at that time we had one of the major concerns I remember coming from you was the to make sure that that the students were coming to Bloomfield College academically sound, right? Because you was like, Mr. Belton, listen, we need to make sure that even in the sense, I think we were supposed to work together to sort of create like a summer bridge program or something like that, right? What are you seeing, Doc, and not just from Orange, but from all over when the kids pipeline into you? What are you seeing as far as deficiencies and things like that are concerned?
I think the biggest challenge that particularly first-year students run into is in the college math and college level writing. Those are the first two challenges. All of
the things they leave the high school with, I guess, right?
Yeah, those are the two main things.
Right.
And so we created a new summer bridge program about 2 years ago, which is actually free to any student. It's kind of an early start program. And so the students commute to it. There's no charge. They actually get a college credit during the summer. Okay. And they get an intensive math and English component of that summer for about 4 weeks. Okay. And that's separate from EOF and separate, that's a separate program altogether. Right. And so that's open to any student. And we created that opportunity. And, and surprisingly enough, not a lot of parents, back to my point about the importance of parents understanding these things, promoted that experience, understanding that if you do this, the success level at first semester is going to change, is going to improve. Right. And it's a free program for the student and the parents. It doesn't cost them anything. They get a free college credit. So it's such an attraction that I don't understand why it's not over-enrolled in the summer, to be honest with you. Typically, we have about no more than 40 to 50 students in some cases that take advantage of that. Right. Of an incoming class of about 400. So, it's, and sometimes, and interestingly enough, though, here's what surprising in some ways, the students who take advantage of it are usually the students who are actually already very well prepared. Yeah, right. They see the opportunity. Yeah, right. I'm gonna get on that. That's right, Doc. That's right. Right. So we got some work to do there. What about Doc, even on that note, when you're saying you got work to do there, and I'm gonna leave it alone, but I feel like I'm in the same boat with you, because I mean that even to make that transition from where I am to you, just sometimes have to bring the parents in and have that conversation, like, Bloomfield College or the institutes, they're offering your son and daughter this, and all we need to do is this, and it's a struggle. So I totally understand that with you. Or student organizations and clubs. Walk me through that at Bloomfield. We have a very diverse group of student organizations and clubs, including Greek life, very active Greek life on campus. So overall, we'll probably have anywhere from, between the Greek organizations and student organizations, anywhere from 40 to 60 organizations students can participate in or join, however you want to do it. And we have a very active student government as well. And we have a very active Greek council. So the student organizations report through an area called the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement on our campus. Okay. That's the area that deals with all of and we call it student leadership and engagement because we don't look at it as student activities. We look at it, we're going to build you as a leader, and we're going to engage you in your development. So most of our programs are intentional and connected to the learning goals of the institution, which means that what you're learning in the classroom is reflected in other activities that we're doing outside. So on any given day, for example, even right now, we have about 60 students on campus over the break. The residential education office is doing an activity every day during the spirit, like every day during the break.
Okay.
So, people, there's a live-on staff who's still actively working.
Right.
And still engaging students, because just because we're closed doesn't mean you get the opportunity to slip.
Right,
So
right. No,
we still want to connect with you.
Exactly.
So very active student life. Students can join any organization they want as early as the first year, with exception to some Greek organizations, because they require their requirements are different.
Right, you're right.
They require either the second semester or your sophomore year.
Right, right.
And they require GPAs based on their national standards. We have the Divine Nine. We have all of the above here. So
right.
It's, the Greek life issue itself is an issue in its own, because every organization is, by nature of their founding is different.
It's different.
In terms of how you enter.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So it's a little different. But other than that, there's something to do here. There's something for everyone. Whether it's an organization that's committed to community service, organizations committed to fashion and entertainment, poetry, like it goes all the way across. We have your traditional Black student unions, Association of Latin American Students. We have the Haitian Caribbean organization. We have, it spreads across the gamut. But the reality is, if a student wants to be involved as early as orientation, they can find a home in some organization.
Right. And that's great. That's great. And I would hope that students would take advantage of that, Doc, because I mean, a bus, if you really just literally a bus ride away, but sometimes like a bus ride away could seem like you far removed from home. And, I remember just, driving to the campus one time, and I think it was like my first time. I made the wrong turn. I couldn't get down there. But once I came down the main street, and I was like, you guys were nestled in such a space, man. I mean, tree line. I mean, it was just a nice place to be. You couldn't have told me. I wouldn't have cared what was around the university, because the way that you guys have the university so nice and manicured and, in that space. Doc, class sizes though. What do what do the numbers look like for the classes?
Well, usually most of our classes are anywhere between 14 to 16:1. I mean, that's a small campus, very small campus. I mean, and I would say this, and I had a conversation with a young man just maybe right around Thanksgiving. He was planning to transfer, and good student. And I said, he wanted to transfer to Montclair State. That's the student's choice.
Right.
And so we sat in and had a conversation. I said, what are the needs that you have as a college student? I said, well, I want to have a personal attention. I want to be in a place where people know me. So we're having this guy. I said, well, how are you going to get that there?
Right.
He says, well, they have bigger parties there. I said, well, those are separate needs. Those separate needs.
Right.
I said, well, look what you're leaving and look what you're going through, because, and then look at how you're struggling here in some ways academically. And people are right here with you. Like, people are with you hands-on. And I think what happens in a place where your class size is about 16 students, your instructor knows who you are.
That's
one or two, like
yes,
right away.
Yes.
They know when you're missing. They know when you're talking and you're engaged, and when you're disengaged from classes.
Right.
You can't hide.
Correct.
And multiple people have access to you. And I said to him, I said, listen, you just walked into my office and no appointment, and I'm here with you for an hour. What vice president Montclair State
exactly
spend an hour with you just walking into the office? I said, I said, before you make that decision, he ended up staying. But I think that if we don't talk to our students about the value of a small college,
I agree,
and what's important here, and if what you want is to be lost in the ocean and not be acknowledged, and you could survive in that space, then you should, because this is not for everyone.
Right.
Some people want to be in a class with 200 people.
Right.
And that's what you want. You want to hide in the back and never really be, engaged with. But if that's not what you want, this is the right place for the right student who has the right needs. And class size is important to us. We have no desire to grow to a large institution.
Right. And when you first threw out 14, 16 students, Doc, I was like, wow, that's excellent. Yeah, because our students they will, that one-on-one attention, especially if you're not academically sound and you need that attention, you would rather for that teacher to find out well before, that final has to roll through or something like that, or you just being a number in a class with 40, 50 some odd kids if you're lucky. So the class sizes, for that number, that's excellent. That's excellent. Doc, I'm about to wrap it up, but before I do, I want you to kind of expound on anything that we missed, because I want to make sure that this video goes out to my parents and my students. So I want everybody to kind of get the real picture of life at Bloomfield College. So is there anything that you think you might have missed or you want to cover?
I'll just add a couple of things that we didn't touch on in terms of, we have some special support programs that we offer to our students. That's really not as much academic. So we have, my office manages a food pantry for commuters and residents.
Okay.
That's open to all our students and their families. So with what's going on in the world right now, this office downstairs is a resource for all of our students and their families.
So Doc, hold on, Doc. So if I'm a student of Bloomfield College, right? My family's going through some stuff.
Yes, the pantry's open to them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We fed about 60 turkeys and all the trimmings for Thanksgiving to our students and their families. We're that type of institution.
Right.
And that's open year round to our students and their families. We also have a career closet that has all of the latest suits, dresses, shoes, belt, ties for our students to take when they go into an event, job interview, free to our students to come and shop. It's called the Bloomfield College Outfitters. And it's a store that my staff manages that's a professional attire for students. So when that opportunity comes and you can't afford to go spend $200 on clothing, you go and you shop there for free.
Doc, let me jump in real fast on that part. When the kid, so if a student is a senior and they're about to, go out into the world and see about getting employment and things like that, do you guys work with them like on those soft skills, like their interviewing skills and all of that stuff? So all of that happens in the makeup of, we'll get you prepared and then we get you prepared. All of that happens like that?
Let me rephrase that for you. We start that during the first year. So that preparation for that time.
I like that.
During the first year, we start that professional grooming process.
Right.
And the closet is available to all students. So it's not just for seniors. If a first year student is going to an internship, I had a student who lost a family member during COVID and they didn't have clothes for the funeral. Closet's open to you. So it's a variety of support. We don't put limits on things because sometimes things that people need, they just need. If that makes sense.
Yes,
they just need it. We also have emergency book scholarship fund for families that can't afford the books. That's a grant that my office administers for those families. So if I can check with the financial aid office and the student has exhausted all options, then and they don't have books, then they come here and we give them a book scholarship to get their books.
Well, actually, you know what, Doc? I remember that because I think I was in your office waiting for you maybe last year, and a student came in. And I remember, I believe it was your secretary. She gave the gentleman a book, and he said, "What?" And she was like, "It's covered." And he took he walked off with the book. So yeah, I remember seeing that.
Oh yeah, that's you were there. My secretary does manage the book fund. She does, and she's great at it too. And we also have an emergency loan program for students and their families. And I'm sharing these with you because I want people to understand why Bloomfield is completely different than everybody else. So let me give you an example. Let's say our students deal with real issues. Not everybody has internet. Some people don't have lights on all the time. People deal with real issues. Let's say our student and their families are going through a hardship where they don't have electricity at home, and the student can't do their work. We'll give that student a loan to help their family through that process. If they're a commuter. If they're a resident, they're on campus, they don't need that. But the point here is our scope of support is the student and beyond the student. Because there's people behind the scene that if my parents are struggling, not eating, it affects me.
I can't focus. I can't focus.
I can't focus. So we have to look past that. And we also have a scholarship fund to help students stay on campus who can't afford it. And we also have a homeless assistance fund, because a lot of times we have to relocate students who are actually homeless and to campus. So we have to do that in a way to support them financially if they can't afford that as well. But I say that to say that Bloomfield is that other kind of place. And so we have what's called a Bloomfield BC Care Team. We have a group of about 15 professionals that meet every 2 weeks to talk about all the different students who are going through hardships and creating action plans to help them. Whether it's an emotional issue, a home issue, an academic issue.
Right.
So this is a student-centric institution, but it's not just to the student, it's the student and all the things that impact that student.
Right, exactly. Okay, all right, Doc, listen, I definitely appreciate you taking out the time. I really wanted my student and parents and any of the listeners who have students that are about to embark on that journey into college. I definitely wanted to hear directly from you about the programs. I learned some things today as well. And I wanted to say I appreciate you. I'll follow up on our MOU, our connection together. And so when I'm gonna air the video. And what I'll probably do is I'll reach back out to you, because it would be great if I could at least put a link or two to representatives or things like that on the link, so that the kids, if they needed to reach out, they can do that directly.
Oh, perfect. And I thank you for inviting me to this conversation, to this interview as well. As always, I'm an admirer of your work with your student and your commitment to your students as well. And they need you at Orange, bro. So keep doing what you do.
All right, Doc. I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna sign off now. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming through. Fearless Leader out.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Fearless Leader Podcast, a podcast made to help you take control of your life and find your passion. If you enjoyed tonight's podcast, make sure you subscribe so you're notified whenever a new episode is posted, and rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. We really appreciate your support here at the Fearless Leader Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you all next week.